How's it going, everyone? It's Milwaukee coming back at you once again, and today we're going to be discussing Aquaman Death of a King by Jeff Johns with art by Paul Pelletier. Let's get into it. This volume of Aquaman contains issues 17 through 19 and issues 21 through 25. In Aquaman 17, Aquaman tries to establish himself both on the surface world and in Atlantis as a true king of Atlantis, despite tensions arising on both worlds due to the events of the Throne of Atlantis arc. Issue 18. Aquaman sends teams to collect Atlantean armaments that are being sold on the surface world after the war. Issue 19. Aquaman hunts down arms dealer Mira returns home. In issue 20, Aquaman sends the others to get a relic. Issue 21, the King of Atlantis attacks Mira's home. In issue 22, Aquaman rescues Mira, but at what cost, and the scavenger attacks Atlantis. Issue 23 sees the battle for Atlantis. In issue 24, we learn the history of Atlantis and Aquaman's true origins are revealed. In issue 25, who shall reign as a true king of Atlantis? Yeah, so in this volume, we really learn a lot about Mira and where she comes from. I remember back in volume 1, like the trench, they sort of set up a mystery that Mira had this past and it wasn't necessarily good for Aquaman, but then they dropped it. So then I wondered, did I misread that? Did I make a mistake? But then here in this book, it's proven that I was right, that Mira was sent to assassinate Aquaman on behalf of this other sect of Atlanteans that's part of like another kingdom that lives in the Bermuda Triangle. And it kind of explains why the triangle sinks all those ships and stuff, because it's like it's another part of Atlantis, right? And the Atlanteans, they're not pleased. And of course, in this volume, we learn who really sank Atlantis. And it turns out, right, it was the King of Atlantis, right? The former king. Another positive I'll say for this volume is we get left with a cliffhanger, epilogue teaser as something that's going to come, in the future as part of a Justice League event, of all things, right? You're thinking what happened in Aquaman, but I guess it's happening in Justice League. And most likely the reason it's going to happen in Justice League is because this is Jeff Johns, farewell on the Aquaman title, right? He's going to continue writing Justice League. And I'm not sure if this is part of like Forever Evil or it's going to be like post Forever Evil, because the timeline right now, it's all over the place. But, a big portion of this book was Atlanteans going to Belle Reve prison to rescue the former King of Atlantis, the Ocean Master, right? But they abandoned that mission, and there's like a time jump, which is really the only negative, or one of the negatives I can say about this book. There's like a 6-month time jump, and you don't know whether or not Ocean Master was freed from prison yet, but it turns out he was, and he's like living with this woman somewhere. And at the end, the king of Zebel or whatever, Mira's homeland, shows up to recruit Orm so they could go take on the rest of the world and restore like the 7 kingdoms or whatever. So it's a pretty good cliffhanger ending that makes you want to see what happens next. But that time jump I feel like really hurt the volume. And as what else has really hurt the volume again, this is it kind of started off slow for me, and then there's a time jump of 6 months. Then it sort of like fast forwards and speed runs to the end. You kind of get a little bit of whiplash there. You wonder what would happen. Would it have been longer if Jeff was going to stay on the book, or did he rush it because he was leaving it, or was it always just going to be this way? It made for like an unsatisfactory ending with the death of the true King of Atlantis, although we do get the history of him and the trench and all that stuff. So Jeff puts a bow on it, like he always does, the master, comic creator Jeff Johns. But, pretty good overall. Just, it is what it is. So with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give Aquaman, the Death of the King, a 5 out of 5. Yeah, it's pretty good. This whole Aquaman run was great. I'd highly recommend it to anybody if you're curious about Aquaman. Even just a little bit. I know Aquaman's kind of a joke, and he was made like a joke in this book. But this run here, you really revitalized Aquaman, and I'm looking forward to like reading not just the continuation of this title, the main Aquaman book, but also Aquaman and the Others, the spin-off of Aquaman. So who would have thought Aquaman would have had 2 books, right? So we'll see what happens. Even though with the new creative teams coming up, you don't know about quality or whatever. We'll just have to see what happens. Until next time, I'll see you there.